Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me? Right, wellness. Does anyone want to stand up, move around? I have a real problem with sitting down when I'm talking. I'm not very good at staying still. So thank you for those of you who are still here. I've got a really fantastic panel here. And you could turn that into a sort of an Englishman-Irishman joke, but some of the audience won't really get that. But we have a complete different mix. And I think that I had the most, fantastic speech lined up that I was going to start the session with. But I'm going to completely throw that out the window. Because wellness really is such an enormous topic, and one size doesn't fit all. And here in the panel today, our panel is just as well we don't actually have the faces up here, because one of our panel members actually has just become a grandmother and is not here. So we have a new additional panel member, which is rather lovely. So just to introduce our panel, we have Asma here, who can introduce herself in a second when she starts speaking, but is the executive director of the Saudi Esports Academy. Then we have Mindy, who is the founder of the Cosmic Girls Foundation, which is looking at finding female astronauts, which is all very exciting. And Jim Brown and Clayton Green from Ground+Air. And again, they're going to introduce themselves as well as we go along. So we're looking at wellness. Do we call it I'm sorry, I can't do it. We're looking at wellness. Wellness, is it wellness? Is it well-being? What does it mean to everyone? How do we define it? The World Health Organization defines it in one way, which is very dry, looking at society has an impact, economic impacts, your physical health, your mental health, but it means different things to different people. So I think, should we just find out in the context of everybody's work what wellness actually means to them and how wellness impacts their young people and their foundation. So can I start with you?
Yes, I'll sit down now. Thank you very much. My name is Asma. I'm the executive director of the Esports Saudi Academy and the Esports Federation. So wellness in the esport, it's not just, it's no longer a secondary concern. It is a really defining the factor of succeed. And it's just like the traditional sport, the top performance, high performance are really requires to have a mental resilience, physical indoors and lifestyle balance. When it comes to the high hours intensity of gaming, that can lead to a stress and burnouts and as well injuries. And this is what it comes, the wellness essential on program in that. And in the industry, it's now investing in the personalized program regimes and as well of the health resilient as well, and to look at the injuries preventions for the long term. Also, the teams are now prioritize wellness as it really can see stronger performance, better teamwork, and as well higher retention rate. And this is really attractive to the sponsor that will can see the associate with the sustainable and as well the inputs of the ecosystem.
Thank you. That's great. So, in terms, Mindy, the foundation that you've set up, you've got young females that you're trying to prepare to get up into space and into the space program. Can you tell us exactly what part wellness plays or well-being plays in your line of work?
Yeah, sure. For me, it's one other business that I think is relevant to why I'm sitting here on the panel. I also train commercial astronauts, and my company is Inner Space Training. So there's the whole, to me, that kind of wellness is about mental resilience and the ability to stay calm and focused under pressure, no matter what the challenges are, whatever comes your way. So in my work training astronauts, I've seen firsthand how mental preparation determines whether someone thrives under pressure or crumbles. And wellness isn't just about physical health to me, it's really about cultivating that mindset, what I call the cosmic mindset, to have that emotional balance, to navigate that uncertainty, whether in space or here on Earth. And when we train our minds, to be present and adaptable and purpose-driven, we kind of unlock our full potential, not just to survive, but to thrive. So essentially, that's what wellness means to me.
Excellent. And Jim, so I know that you and Clayton work together, but can you talk maybe in terms of how wellness, from your experience in working with the executives, and then Clayton's an exercise physiologist, so he's going to tell us a little bit more with maybe that slant. Can you tell us what wellness means to you?
Well, I can tell you what wellness means to me, and I can describe a million different definitions from different people that we work with, because ultimately there isn't a universal definition for wellness, and it's deeply personal, and many people kind of mix wellness up with health. In other words, not falling over. If you're healthy enough not to fall over, that's a good thing, and performance. And the business that Clayton and I are involved with is a wellness and performance business with an absolute emphasis on performance, because ultimately that's what businesses are interested in. They'd rather that their people thrived, of course. They'd rather that people didn't get ill. But ultimately, I guess a business's focus is on results. And so the definition of wellness with our companies varies enormously. I guess the way we frame this, the definition is around feeling ready, able and open to perform at our very, very best when it matters, and being able to do that consistently. And being well supports that. Being unwell derails that completely. So I guess there's certainly a physiological component to wellness. There's a psychological component. There's an attitudinal component too, how I feel about where I'm working and how well resourced I am and supported by the organization and rewarded for what I do. There's a spiritual element to wellness too. It's not necessarily in the religious sense necessarily, but just in the sense of, do I feel that my work is purposeful? So lots in there, but ultimately I think the skill set that you need to be well is to know how to keep yourself well in terms of the exercise protocols and diet, etc., that you have, and an appetite for that, I guess. Clayton.
So Clayton, in terms of physiology and data, can I also throw an extra aspect? Sorry, you knew I'd do that. Is there a difference in sort of what Jim was just saying there, and actually with a slant of a female perspective, is there anything that you can add when you're giving your definition with a bit more of that slant?
How dare you, Julia? We didn't talk about this beforehand. Let me just introduce myself quickly. So my name is Clayton Green, and I'm a human performance coach. I work with Ground+Air, I work with Jim. But prior to my time there, I spent 12 years at McLaren managing their human performance program across the business of Formula One, if you like. So everything from people working in the factory to traveling race team and the drivers themselves. And I was very fortunate to have the experience of working with Lewis Hamilton in 2010, looking after his preparation and performance for the races. So I definitely come at this from a performance perspective. Everything to do with wellness for me is about underpinning having the resources available to be able to perform, whatever that might be, in the world of business or in the cockpit of a race car. You'll all have a very distinct task and performance that you need to do. Now, wellness for me is very much looking at kind of lifestyle factors that affect your physiology and your ability to then kind of cope and manage with stress effectively. And stress comes from many different sources for all of us. But the stress, as it changes your physiology, makes it more difficult for you to have the resources to put into whatever your performance might be. So can you adapt your lifestyle, adapt your wellness, adapt your physiology so you can deal better with the changes that stress will cause you in the moment, be that from psychological stress, physiological stress, or a combination of all of that. Now, you asked me about women in particular. Obviously, Formula One is not a very female-dominated sport currently. So my female physiology might be not up to the level that you want for this, but there will definitely be differences. There are different challenges for a female athlete or a female in the business place than there might be for a male. But when you've got different males in the workplace or in competition, everyone's got a unique and individual difference, and you would certainly need to tailor the wellness, tailor the lifestyle to factor in what those differences might be and how that could affect your performance.
Thank you. And actually, I don't know if any of you have read any of the work by Dr. Stacey Sims, and if you haven't, I really recommend that. She's written 2 books. One's called Raw, R-O-A-R, and one's The Next Level. And The Next Level is sort of the next years of sort of menopause and beyond, and exercise during that. But it's actually quite interesting because a lot of the data and the physiology is sort of traditionally is being carried out on male subjects and then translated into females, and we know that isn't necessarily directly translatable. So Stacey has done some great work into that if you're interested. But moving on, if we come back to you, Asma, in terms of what within the academy, looking at the aspect of wellness in how you're actually putting that into your training programs and into the academy. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
So at Saudi Esports Federation, wellness is not afterthought. It's embedded in our very structured development for the players. One of the things that we had is partnership with King Saud University, the medical city, and that what we have is the SEF launch the pioneer research on physical and mental health impact on the esport. And this initiatives, while exploring that an area such as stress management, injury preventions, and as well of peak of the performance strategy. For the Saudi Esports Academy, that wellness is a core pillar in our training methodology that provides the safe performance training, which is include for the players the health, resilience, and fitness, physical fitness guidance, and as well anything related to the wellness. And as well, we have a boot camps that it's really intensive of the program that's the skills gaming with the wellness going hand to hand. And this is just to prepare the players both physically and mentally. Also, we focus on the personalized development, which is holistic including for the soft skills training and lifestyle coaching, and as well of the high performance for the long term. And we have a dedicated wellness support for the long term for the success of the players. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah, that's really brilliant, and especially with the Esports World Cup coming up and everything, it's fantastic that you're really starting to address those issues. Mindy, can I ask the same question to you? How are you putting all this into the preparation and aspects into your training?
Okay. First, initially, when I was thinking, what does spaceflight training have to do with wellness? For me, the connection got more clearer because although I'm primarily focusing on the mental aspects of before, during, and after spaceflight, if you think about it, space travel is kind of like the ultimate test of mental and emotional resilience. Astronauts face uncertainty, isolation, extreme environments like microgravity, and yet out of that, you need to remain calm and focused and high performing. But saying that, it's very similar, I think, to the women in sports, or to people who do sports in general. But for me, the idea of the cosmic mindset, the training to thrive under pressure, is kind of at the heart of what I'm doing, both at Inner Space Training, but also training girls with the Cosmic Girls Foundation. We're not only upskilling girls to become astronauts, not just because we want to send them to space, but also we want them to sort of know that they can be anything they put their minds to. We teach them that same resilience and confidence and mental preparation that astronauts use so that they can break barriers in whatever field they would like ultimately. And we're having this worldwide competition called the 6 Girls, 6 Continents competition, where girls from all over the world between 14 and 19 can join us. And essentially, girls, we give them experiences, first of all, in getting STEM education, but also getting used to a little bit more how to become more fearless and have that mental resilience to go the full journey of becoming an astronaut. And in our competition, the girls will receive not only this kind of upskilling with life skills and STEM education, but also the 6 girls 6 finalists, 1 from each continent, are going to go on to actually win the commercial astronaut training, which is super exciting. And 1 girl actually wins a space flight. So, I just want to say, we're looking for girls from Saudi Arabia, 14 to 19, but also all over the Middle East to get involved in our program, which is absolutely free. And we'd love to get any kind of support from anybody else who this maybe resonates with in the room, or if you know people that it might resonate with. So, yeah, lots of exciting opportunities coming up. But yeah, I'll just leave it for there.
Excellent.
Right there.
That sounds very exciting. If we kind of come back out of space and back down to the Earth, so how, from the work that you're doing, there are a couple of things that have sort of come up with the first 2 programs that we're talking about here. In terms of those, the mental resilience or the emotional intelligence aspect to, with the esports, if they're making decisions quickly, can you just explain in terms of the experience that you've had and the clients that you've had, because you've worked quite a lot with esports as well, haven't you? Yeah. Is that something that's thrown straight into another question? But yeah, maybe you could just explain sort of a little bit why the impact of wellness, in what you're doing and how that relates to the work you're doing.
Yeah, so maybe explain a little bit about some of the courses and things that we do. And yeah, we've done quite a lot of work in esports, actually, Asma, so it's great to meet you and great to hear what the Saudi are doing in that area. It sounds fantastic. So yeah, we work with a big range of companies, from big global investment banks to esports organizations to retailers, and we like it that way because we're trying to bring best practice from different industries to the work we do, and people are people, and it's important that we understand people first rather than the businesses, I suppose. The way that we break down performance and how we therefore support people to perform is thus. We have 3 components to our performance model. One is about energy, and so that's about how people manage their energy thoughtfully and intelligently to get the best results. So that's, I guess, more of on the kind of physiological and behavioral side of things. Another is emotional intelligence. So we do a lot of work assessing and developing emotional intelligence skills in individuals at all levels. So that involves us looking at a variety of competencies that are all trainable, to enable people to have a level of kind of focus and balance in the way that they operate that supports them feeling great and performing well. So that would involve having a sufficient inner focus for me to have an appreciation of how my feelings affect how I behave. So that's about self-confidence, self-awareness, self-control, enough kind of focus on other people to appreciate what other people need from me in order for me to lead, manage, operate successfully, and a level of outer focus which is about understanding the rules of engagement, I guess, in the environment you're in. So the team I'm in, the organization I work for, the community I sit within. And so to answer your question, a lot of our work is around supporting people get that balance right in ways that work for them and the organizations that they work to.
Thank you. And Clayton, can you expand on that in terms of where does a person's physiology fit into that model that Jim's talking about?
Thank you. I'm just going to draw quickly, I think, on some of my experiences when I was at McLaren. As I used to work across lots of different divisions of the company, if you like, and different kind of workforces and different people. And wellness was probably defined quite differently for each of the groups, and the way that you helped them was also different. I mean, at the company sort of level, you might have a wellness initiative, if you like, that was, providing some healthcare, providing fitness facilities, good food choices, things like that. But that'd be about as deep as it would go, and then it'd be about allowing the individual to access it if they needed it. But as you kind of moved up the performance pathway, it became a much bigger part. Like I say, it tended to underpin how the individuals could perform in pressure environments. But the issue that we always had as a company, if you like, is McLaren in particular, and with Jim and the kind of more corporate businesses have moved into, is that everyone likes to be data-driven. And I think with wellness, because so many different factors influence it, be it physiological, which is more my side, or psychological, things in the environment, things at home, it's difficult to measure some of these things and difficult to put metrics on it. And certainly when I was working in Formula One, there was a bit of a distrust, if you like, from management. If you couldn't measure something, how could you really see the return on investment for what you're doing with it? But from the physiology side, certainly like wearable technology, different devices which are out there now have become much better at picking up on certain metrics that might be lifestyle factors, how much you move, how much you sleep, looking at things like recovery from heart rate variability. You can get a much more granular picture of what physiological systems are either under stress or contributing to someone's wellness. So it makes it much easier to have kind of a wellness program, if you like, that you might be able to build around an athlete from that perspective. But the mental side is much more difficult, and it's more about measuring it and quantifying it.
Thank you. And you're talking about challenges there, and if I come back to you, Asma, are you finding that there are any particular challenges you're facing in the esports sort of space? I'm going to use the word space again. In the esports ecosystem with regards to, what you're doing?
So as the female player in the esports have a very unique challenges. And as a SEF, the federation, we address it and we create and have a launch and initiatives that to empower the female players in the esport. So we have something called the Saudi E-League for women, and it is the first professional league that the female can play in a very high professional offering performance of the wellness as well as the competitions. As well, we have another program. It's for holistic development, and that's offering as well for the players, the female players, of supporting of the wellness and mental resilience and lifestyling coach. Also, we have that we also make sure that females that going and participate more and have a fairness that access, I would say, the wellness programs and resources. And since they are facing gender-based online harassment and as well not accessing the wellness, and that's why we address it and make sure all the females have accessibilities and equal for the resources of the wellness. So Saudi Arabia is not just only increasing participation of the females, we're really shaping the future of inclusive as well, and have reach all the players regardless of your gender. Thank you.
Excellent. And what about you, Mindy? Have you noticed that there are any particular challenges that you're facing? Or how are you shaping the program in order to cope with, because I mean, if a challenge happens up in space, then I guess it's down to you you're the only one that can deal with it, really, aren't you?
Right. Well, I think there's challenges, let's say, two separate things. One is sort of when people are there and the challenges that happen, like not having a spacesuit that fits women. You're pretty much stuck for that particular mission, and that's happened before several times. But I think, if we're talking about much earlier in the talent pipeline, we have the same issues of representation for women. There's only 10% of all, 10 or 12, depending on how you measure it, percent of all astronauts who are women. Only 12 countries in the world have had female astronauts. So the idea of representation, it's even worse than women in sport. Women in sport are doing so much better. And so I'm listening to a lot of things in the room and thinking, oh, got to make a note of that. Some good information. But I mean, for me, it's also about like getting girls excited about even getting into the field to begin with. And how do we do that? And how do we interest them in doing that when it's not considered cool culturally for whatever reason? And so we're trying to give experiences to girls where they can first sort of dip their toe in the water and say like, oh, actually, I did some science challenge and that wasn't so bad, and now I can dip my foot in and see what happens. Initially when we came out with the 6 Girls, 6 Continents competition, I thought like, oh my God, this is going to attract so many women around the world, the chance to win a trip to space. Who wouldn't want this, right? And there's quite a few women that are or girls that are intimidated by this. And I thought, we'd be inundated with like tons of women or girls, and in fact, it's much less. And people said, you really need to start from square one, dipping the toe in and giving girls, first of all, that girls can see like-minded girls doing what they like, and they like space. And some girls don't know anybody. They're the only girl in the room who's interested in space. So you have to start giving a forum for girls can meet one another who like the same things that they do. And then the next step is maybe give them an opportunity to hear a webinar, and the next step is actually doing a program, and finally the competition. So it's kind of like taking baby steps, building that talent pipeline, getting girls excited when they don't see anybody really, certainly on the national level, who like what they like. So it's really, further back in the on the spectrum than women in sport.
Yeah. And that's actually, that's resonating from Hebe. You were talking about that, sort of in the STEM world, and just sort of trying to get people involved. Changing the subject slightly, Jim, Clayton, in terms of, we all know we all think we know what we should be doing in that wellness space. I know that given half a chance, actually, all I'd want to do is eat salt and vinegar crisps and eat chocolate brownie. And I'm actually quite lucky that my physiology sort of lets me do that. But actually, that is a really great recipe for me to fall over and not manage my energy very well. So I do know that that's not the right thing to do, sadly. How many leaders are actually walking the walk? And what do you think about that?
Wow, and it's a big question, and it varies so much from level to level, from culture to culture. So I'm probably better to sort of, how do I answer that? Better to pick off certain sectors maybe and levels. So, and these are big sweeping statements here, but I think, the average leader, and a lot of them are male as we know, who's sort of 45 plus, didn't get to where they were in their heads by taking short days and taking long weekends, and just that didn't necessarily happen. A lot of the very, very most senior leaders are all over their fitness. Of course, they're corporate athletes. But I think the majority of people at that level today are overstretched, have sufficient understanding of what they should be doing to feel guilty about it, but are doing very, very little, or certainly not enough, not to support long-term, sustainable, enjoyable, fulfilling performance. I think if you drop a level, sweeping statement, but 10 years, unless that age group is barraged by information on Instagram, etc., about what they should be doing, and they're interested in it, they're more interested in it, but they're more confused by it because there is so much information being thrown at them, from the Kardashians to, to whoever. And that means that often their exercise selection, their nutritional choices, the way they talk to themselves are all wrong, all not healthy. So it's a really mixed bag.
No, completely agree. And Clayton, if I sort of move that question on, one of my favourite quotes is, "Movement is a chemical bubble bath for your brain." What do you think to that?
Who said that?
Me. No. Sadly, I don't think it was me. It is. I need to stand up again.
Did you really come up with that?
No, I didn't.
Well, it's a great quote, isn't it? I mean, I guess it's just really pointing to the fact that our physiology and our psychology are just interlinked. The two influence each other. The way you perceive things in the outer world dictates whether you see things as some kind of threat or stress, which affects your physiology. If you put things into your physiology like sugar and caffeine, it has the same effect as stressing your body out, which then puts your mindset in a different way to perceive the outside world. So the two are definitely linked together. I think just picking up on where Jim was kind of leaving off there, I think when you get into like these businesses and these corporations, I think that the challenge that people have, whether they're walking the walk or not, is really about resource allocation on an individual basis. So obviously, people think about time when it comes to their resources, what they're going to spend their time on. But to put a bit of a generic term on it, we might also look at energy, for example. And, I talk about stress and nervous system and how it diverts energy, away from what you might want to be putting it towards. But you have a limited amount of energy. And in a lot of these positions, if you like, a lot of these, not even leadership positions, but work positions, people are trying to perform at work, but they'll often have other roles as well. So they'll go home and they'll be, a mother, a father, husband, wife, whatever, and they're trying to balance how much resource they can allocate to that, as well as what they can put into the workplace. When you're an elite level athlete, yes, you'll have other challenges going on, in the outside world and stuff, but a lot of them make sacrifices around other parts of their life so that they are able to focus more of their resources on the way they perform. And I think we all expect to be kind of high performers and, you know, achieve excellence, and we all want to aspire to that, but sometimes you also have to be a little bit realistic on what resources do I have available, what is excellence for me given my life as it currently is, and, you know, what do I want to prioritize?
And I think that's a really good point there, is that you just said at that time in my life. And I think that's one thing that, you know, at my grand old age, I really do think things have changed, and there are different points in your life where you can prioritize things more than at other times. And you just, you know, tomorrow is another day, and you'll show up differently tomorrow. And don't, you know, be kind to yourself and actually look at managing those resources for the period that you're in, and that doesn't have to be forever, and you can change that. If there's one thing that because I know that we're going to have to sort of think about sort of wrapping up soon, and just before I ask this question, please, we're going to have this workshop in a minute, and it would be really great if all of you can move through to the VIP room where we can carry on this conversation. And Jim and Clayton, if you can just tell us a little bit about what to expect in that at the end. But before we get there, in terms of your one takeaway message of just throwing this at you, one takeaway message. In terms of wellness, what would you say that you've learned? It can be in terms of esports or just you.
So in the past, wellness was not really recognized. It was only focusing of the technical skills. And I see this as a game, as a players that we are under the academy, and see the athletes are really neglected that. And they realize that this is a very big impact of their performance. And once we show them the studies and how to manage to have the wellness and well-being, and to have the balance of your health food, your mental, your stress, how to take it, and talk to the psychologists and stuff, they see the huge change in that. And this is a really message I want to send to all the young generation and the gamers especially, that do not stay for 7-8 hours non-stop and eating not really healthy food, and just you're gonna burn out easily, and it will be very effective in another good way.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. And investing in yourself now pays dividends later, doesn't it? And I think that's really important. What about you, Mindy?
I have three messages, three short takeaways. The first, I think, is preparation is key. Astronauts don't just train their body for space, and they train their minds. But before a mission, you know, I teach them mindfulness techniques, stress management, visualization exercises. And the reason is because in this high-stakes situation, their ability, you know, to stay present, regulate their emotions, you know, is what keeps them safe. And so I think similarly in our daily lives, if we prepare our minds through meditation or breath work, even simply taking a pause, we build resilience, and you know that's great for when life throws you a new challenge. The second piece is about adaptability, which is key, and that things don't always go as planned, as we know. You know, you might lose communication with ground control, or you might have to a lot of turbulence. So I think astronauts who can adapt, regulate their emotions thrive. Similarly, on Earth, same thing. Being able to adjust to setbacks determines our mental well-being. And so we want to cultivate that mindset that embraces change rather than fearing it. And the last thing, I think, is maybe a unique perspective, which is the overview effect, which we haven't talked about. One of the most profound things that astronauts get when they go to space, when they view the Earth from, let's say, the moon, they see this fragile blue planet, you know, while floating in space. It fundamentally shifts their perspective. And they return with a greater sense of interconnectedness, gratitude, and purpose. And so, you know, many of us don't get to space, but I think we can cultivate that mindset here on Earth by zooming out, appreciating the bigger picture, and focusing on what really matters. And so I think at the heart of wellness, the mindset is, for me, the most important piece of it. And that's why I'm so passionate regarding the Cosmic Girls Foundation. Because when we train the girls to think like astronauts, we're not just preparing them for space, we're preparing them for life.
Excellent, thank you. And I know that we're going to come to the workshop, and I know that we're about to be kicked out of here. So could you, maybe what we could do is, if you could just tell us what we can expect in the workshop, and then we can continue there. Is that okay?
Of course, everyone's very welcome. We're going to keep it as kind of interactive as we possibly can, but essentially it's 3 main points we're going to look at, really trying to understand what performance is, what performance means to you as individuals or as businesses, because it is different for everyone, how we might be able to use different sources of data to make better decisions on things that we can change to improve our performance. And then we've got a few examples and case studies of people we've worked with in the corporate world and the sort of things that come up.
I really didn't think I was going to be able to link Saudi esports, astronauts, and well, but there again, Ground and Air, there you go, together in one. But I think we've done it quite well, actually. So well done, guys. Thank you so much, and thank you for staying and listening.
What a fantastic panel to have finished on, and I think that really sums up the tone of the day. Now, you may or may not be pleased to know that does conclude the conferencing section of the day, and I'd like you all to give yourselves a round of applause because you've listened beautifully. Well done. Thank you very much. So the day doesn't stop here. My name is Charlotte Melia. I'm the CEO and co-founder at D&F Creative. We're the first double women-founded, women-owned creative studio in Saudi Arabia, and we've been a proud sponsor and co-host today at WiMENA. So I'd like to extend gratitude to Tara, Laura, and the whole team at WiMENA and our sponsors for a fantastic day. Thank you, everybody. And I know we've all been super keen to network. There are such fantastic people in the building today. So to facilitate the afternoon of networking, post-workshop, you'll be treated to a local Saudi DJ, DJ Hannah. She's performed at the Jockey Club of Saudi Arabia for us before, and you really don't want to miss it. Fantastic set. And we also have a top artist in the foyer who will be designing calligraphy for you to take home, so you have a memento for the day. But please do stay for Jim and Julia's amazing workshop, and then stick around for some arts and culture. Thank you so much, everybody.